Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to Q Builder. Sorry, I forgot the name.
We should, yeah. I was gonna say we should get a hammer. Every time we mess up, we have to smack each other in the nuts as hard as we can.
Welcome, everybody, to Q Builder Episode 3. I hope you are all at home, comfortable, together, holding each other nice and moist, ready for another fun-filled next couple of 20 minutes with me, Balonabis, and my partner,
Darnaby. So, we were talking about, last episode kind of got us in a conversation because you might remember we reviewed World's Greatest Dad. Great film, Really funny, very dark, very edgy, from an edgy filmmaker and edgy comedian, Bobcat Goldthwait.
And when we got wind that his next movie was going to be put on Netflix, we knew that our next theme would have to be centered around an idea that could be, so we watch this movie and talk about this movie. And that theme is comedians turned directors.
We'll start with the aforementioned Bobcat Goldthwait film at the front of this. And it was just added to Netflix not too long ago. You might have seen the poster image, but it's called Call Me Lucky, and it's a documentary about comedian Barry Crimmins, which, if you don't know who Barry Crimmins is, that's okay, because
we didn't.
We had no clue who Barry Crimmins was, and this might be one of my favorite films from 2015.
Yes. I haven't seen a lot of films from 2015, but this is probably at the top of the list so far.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
This film chronicles the varied career of bombastic comic and social critic Barry Crimmins and the painful past that inspired his peaceful activism. From the start, you see just a montage of some of the most influential comedians of our time, of all time.
All you recognize and
one after another.
In movies.
Yeah, just singing this guy's praises. Barry Crimmins, one of the most influential comedians of all time, inspired. Just a few names that come to mind, like Jeffrey Lewis, Patton Oswalt, Mark Maron, a bunch of people I really admire. But then I kept wondering, then how come I haven't heard of Barry Crimmins? How come he's suddenly, out of the spotlight and getting all this attention? And then you really start to learn about his life, and it becomes a very interesting chronicle of basically how he's avoided the spotlight for almost all of his career, and sort of how his brand of comedy is pretty much unmarketable.
Yeah, it really is just anti-comedy, because most, as you'll see in the movie, most of his stand-up routine is just him bitching about the things that piss him off, in the political circuit and in just social things, and he hates the government, he hates religion. He just gets on stage and just says, fuck these people, and they're stupid, and we'd be so much better without everyone. That's about all he does. So
yeah,
I mean, he's not like a Bill
Richard Pryor
or something, where he's getting on stage and telling super funny stories, and so he's just a really different kind of comedian, and so this movie goes deep into just how influential he was, behind the scenes too, and how he gave all this advice to all these comedians and tried to get them to push their act further and all this stuff. And I didn't know that there was just this hand, guiding all these people that I've never heard of before.
Yeah, and that's actually, I think, the source of why Bobcat Goldthwait made this documentary, is because Crimmins is basically responsible for getting him into comedy, of really giving him his first shot and encouraging him, and sort of giving him that, how everybody needs a mentor, someone to look up to. Crimmins was that person for Goldthwait.
The movie is about comedy, but then about the halfway point it kind of takes a really dark turn, and suddenly the movie becomes about something very different and far more serious.
Yes, and I feel like this is actually one of the reasons you should go into this movie blind. I feel like how it works better if you don't know anything about Barry Crimmins is when you learn more about his personal life, and when Goldthwait actually treats this film as a psychological deconstruction of getting to the source of Crimmins' rage and anger, and that just unfiltered passion that he brings to the stage. What inspires that? And he gets to the bottom of it. He definitely gets to the source of what fuels Crimmins' life's work, and it's dark. It's very dark and troubling, and completely blindsides you. I couldn't have even imagined.
Yeah, and by like getting to the source of Crimmins' rage, it gets kind of to the source of a giant social issue that we kind of try to forget about because it is so terrible. I mean, you're right. Probably the less said about it, the better. But at first, it's going to seem like it's not like an experience you don't want to have, but it's worth watching the movie to the end because you do feel like you kind of learn a lot about something that is extremely serious and sad. Yeah, and I also think that this movie says a lot about comedians and what goes on in their heads, and comedians I think are written off as just like, oh, they're just goofy people that are loud and crazy on stage or in movies or something, but they actually really have their finger on the pulse of everything, and they understand the way people feel, and they've experienced a lot of tragedy because Crimmins, he's so funny because his life has been awful. And so you kind of have to wonder like how are other people are probably suffering from a lot of the same stuff or their own stuff, whatever, and comedians kind of become comedians as their way of dealing with life's tragedies, the tragedies that life has dealt them. So
basically taking something ugly and negative and turning it positive and making it a great factor in people's lives, something that improves people's lives, and it's altogether inspiring. It's one of those movies that you don't expect it to, but it kind of gives you that reaffirmation after you come out of it that there's good people in the world. Even though there's a lot of horrible people in the world, there's the good people that override that'll always prevail. Goldthwait should be proud, Crimmins should be proud, and everyone should go out and seek this film. It's only a click away. Watch it as soon as you can.
Yeah, put it on your queue. The next comedian turned director, this guy's awesome.
He's made so many serious films now that I've forgotten that he started as a comedian.
Actually, when we started doing this, I'm not real familiar with the guy, so when we were like, hey, we're going to do comedians turn directors, you're like, oh yeah, this guy's a comedian. I'm like, what? Because all I've seen is this next movie. And not a comedian.
You may be familiar with Takashi Kitano, otherwise known as Beat Takashi.
Which is his comedian name, right?
Yes, exactly. If that name doesn't ring a bell, fans of early 2000s era Spike TV might know his face as, remember that show MXC?
Yeah,
remember,
I love MXC.
Kenny Blankenship and Vic Romano. He was Vic Romano. Which actually he wasn't... that show, MXC, was his show in Japan, Takashi's Castle, redubbed and with new sound effects and stuff like that. And that's actually the first time I ever saw Takashi Kitano, and those were in his comedian days.
Yeah, I didn't even know that was him. Like I've seen that show, and then I've heard of Kitano, and Kitano's a badass, and even when you just see a close up of his face. He's so badass.
Yeah, he is
totally expressionless, and he's just so hardcore. And in the movie that we are talking about, the movie we are alluding to is Sonatine.
Yes,
it's a classic. It's probably his most well-known movie. A mob boss sent to a small town to broker a peace between clashing factions of his gang is suddenly forced into a deadly ambush. And to me, that doesn't really describe the movie, at all. It makes it seem like the whole movie's this build up to this giant shootout.
Yes.
At the end, when really most of the movie is just people hanging around, on a beach.
Yeah. If for those of you thinking this is going to be the Japanese Goodfellas, don't look. I say don't go into that kind of expectation. This is one of those kind of. I wouldn't call it plotless because there is a plot, but I could pretty much watch this and forget there is a plot.
Yeah, it's not real concerned with its plot because, like I said, most of the movie literally is just kind of all the characters of the movie hanging out with each other, hanging out on the beach, playing games, a lot of dangerous games, shooting fireworks at each other, and even guns at certain points, playing Russian roulette. That is what most of the movie consists of. I mean, there are a few scenes where there's some shootouts, and it is pretty tense. But it's not it's not like a Tarantino movie where guts are flying everywhere. It's not like a Scorsese movie where it's fun. It's it's just emotionless shootouts like the whole time. He's so bored with all the action, and that's for me what really makes me love this movie. Is because like Kitano the whole time he rarely smiles. He never looks afraid. He's just going through the motions. He's a gangster, so he has to try to get money from people, and he has to scare people, but he's so done with it all. He's so bored.
Really jaded.
Yeah, super jaded. And then like there's a scene in a bar where he's just sitting there, and then suddenly a group of guys on the other side of the bar start shooting at him. He just stands up and just starts shooting back. And
it's like he's on autopilot.
Yeah. He's totally lucky that he didn't get hit. Yeah, it's like, now this is what I'm doing. And that's the whole movie.
Yeah, it's. I think this is where Kitano's talent as a comedian really comes in, because you could tell this is a movie that's really comes out of observation of probably being really familiar with trends in gangster films, and even probably just looking at Yakuza history and sort of events that have happened, and then just kind of taking a really counterculture approach to it and thinking, let's deconstruct this persona. Let's take a Yakuza guy who's basically been in this his whole life. I think he says he killed his first man at age 13 or something.
Something like that.
And it was his father or something like that. And basically just takes that approach and thinks, let's make it almost like a mystery of what is going on in this guy's head after so many years of killing people, after so many years of carrying out orders and basically being a lackey, someone who's just doing the dirty work.
Yeah. And since he does express so little, you just look at his face and try to imagine what he's feeling, or try to read emotion into it or something. And it's and it's really hard to, because this whole movie does go against the grain of all those gangster movie cliches, because this movie came out in 93, so the biggest movie at that time was Goodfellas. So if you're thinking a gangster movie, it's got to be just like Goodfellas. It has to be super entertaining. A lot of wild characters and blood everywhere. But it's definitely not like that at all. It's it takes all those cliches and uses them as jokes or something. Yeah. It's a gangster movie you won't see from De Palma or from Scorsese
or any American filmmaker. I feel like
a movie like this would not be made in America.
It's only something Kitano could have made. I feel, and his other gangster films have the similar kind of quality of his characters are so mysterious yet so fascinating. I feel like it almost feels like he's playing the same character in every single one of his gangster films. It seems like it's always a continuation of exploring that persona. And Sonatine might be my favorite out of his whole lineage of gangster films. So check it out. If it's your introduction into his work, I feel it's a great place to start.
Yeah, I mean, it's my introduction. I still haven't seen any of his other movies, but it's one of those after you see I have to see more of this guy's films. So yeah, so put it on your Netflix queue. Do it. Yeah, when you're talking about actors turned directors,
comedians specifically.
That's what I meant. Was comedians turned directors. He did act, so it works, but our theme is comedians turned directors. When you think about those, the biggest name that comes to mind, probably the granddaddy, the ultimate great, is Woody Allen.
Yes.
Right. He's one of the greatest filmmakers of all time, one of the funniest men alive.
Countless movies we could talk about. Classics, ranging from early career to contemporary.
He's been in movies since the 60s. From the 60s to now, so many movies, 50 plus movies he's acted in. He's directed and written so many. He is one of the few living geniuses.
And one of the most productive filmmakers of that generation. One of the most productive filmmakers of all time. Still amazingly making one movie a year for the past 40 years.
And they're typically very good each time.
So,
but he does hiccup occasionally.
And we're going to take the opportunity to ignore his influence and talk about maybe his weakest film.
Yeah, which is amazing, because his other weakest films are still kind of okay. This one doesn't reach that high.
Curse of the Jade Scorpion.
Curse of the Jade Scorpion, that's a pretty bad one too, actually. I'd say the Cursed Jade Scorpion's better than this just because that's Dan Aykroyd. I love that. But we are talking about Scoop. Dun, dun, dun. This is a movie. I've been wanting to get my feelings very public about this movie for years.
While visiting friends in London, an American journalism student beats out Britain's top reporters by breaking a story involving murder and magic. I went into this open-minded, even though I had heard about its reputation from you, and I generally hear this movie isn't one of his best.
Yeah, this is kind of his, like, universally accepted, like, one of his bad movies.
Mm-hmm.
No one's a fan of it.
And I went into it still, like, I love Woody Allen, I went into it wanting to laugh, and I found a very oddly paced, kind of meandering, sloppy kind of mystery that goes for broad comedy but never really hits the right note.
No, like I've always felt. I mean, this is really broad comedy. I mean, there's magic and there's ghosts and all this stuff. Like, I've always felt that kind of comedy has never been Woody Allen's strong suit. Like, his best movies are the ones where they're really like down to earth, just people talking with each other, where it's just movies about people and who they are and how they interact with other people. Those are his best movies, like Annie Hall, Hannah and Her Sisters, or something like that. But then he has his other movies that I just never have enjoyed. You know, this obviously, but also like Bananas and
I like Bananas.
Yeah, I don't really like Bananas that much. And also
I love Sleeper too.
Yeah, Sleeper is the one like that definitely works. That movie's hilarious. But like, what was that one? Everything You Always Wanted to Know About Sex, But We're Too Afraid to Ask. I just never felt like those movies were that good, and I think I know why, actually. And it's because if you ever listen or watch his stand-up is always, you know, he like tells a lot of stories when he does stand-up, and it's always stories like the plot of Scoop, and it's hilarious on stage. And I just don't think he's able to translate it from a stand-up format to a feature, you know, story plot format, you know, with characters and stuff. And, you know, it's funny when it's like a 5-minute little story you tell, but it's not funny when it's a 90-minute story you're telling.
Yeah, and Woody Allen himself appears in the movie as he almost is like a storyteller in the movie. He's a magician, but he has a lot of dialogue in which he's describing things, basically. I'd say 90% of this movie is characters walking around describing the plot.
Yeah,
like a thing.
It's like we know what the plot is.
Yeah, when a new clue is basically like
brought in, they have to like go through the whole plot again and see where that clue fits into it all.
Yeah, there's
every scene.
There's lots of Woody Allen just going off and talking of, you know, I think Hugh Jackman's a killer and all this stuff, and
or like this is dangerous. We got to get out of here.
Yeah, as performers, Woody Allen, Scarlett Johansson, Hugh Jackman, all very charismatic. I think even well cast, and Ian McShane too. They're all trying and they all are good, but it's like there's no urgency to anything. It's like it just feels like everybody's kind of on like autopilot, you know.
Yeah, I just think that the script itself is really uninspired, because I mean, you know all the beats and you know all the steps it's gonna take. Like, you know, you have Scarlett Johansson, who's a beautiful actress, and you have Hugh Jackman, who's a really handsome actor, and you know she's investigating him in this movie, and you know when they do that they're gonna fall in love, and like, you know, so she's gonna be all torn, like, oh, this guy might be a killer, but I love him at the same time. And so that's most of the movie, is just like them talking like about that aspect of the plot, and how she needs to get out of there, but she doesn't want to. Yeah. I mean, I would say maybe like the last fifth of the movie takes an interesting turn where the plot's a little different, but other than that, you see the whole thing coming a mile away.
Yeah.
And you know, you get Woody Allen in there doing his whole like Woody Allen shtick, and you hope that can bring in a couple laughs, and it does. It brings in a couple laughs. But it's just, I don't know, I found him annoying in this movie because he's being Woody Allen for absolutely no reason in this movie. He's just there to tell Scarlett Johansson, ooh, let's get out of here. You know, oh, we might get caught if we do this.
Yeah,
it's like he's there because the plot requires him to be there, and it's just none of it felt inspired to me at all.
If we're ranking Woody Allen films and we basically call like Annie Hall, like that's like a raging Woody. Yeah.
Rock solid, unbreakable.
Yeah. And let's say like Small Time Crooks is like flaccid, and like Irrational Man is like a pretty solid chub.
Yeah.
Where would Scoop fall?
That would probably fall in like. Okay, so yeah, Small Time Crooks is like flaccid, right? It's like Raging Woody right here, right? Mm-hmm. That's a Raging Woody.
Okay, that's Annie Hall.
Yeah, that's Annie Hall right here, the tip. And then Rational Man is kind of like, you know, like this a little bit. It's angled, but it's getting up there.
It's got some girth.
Like
to
it can do some damage.
Yeah.
You know, Small Time Crooks is flaccid, but then like Scoop is like shrink it up and it's like a little clitoris. That's Scoop. Well, thank you guys for watching another episode of Q Builder. We really appreciate your support for what we do. If you're looking for other interesting movies that you should check out, we have a couple other episodes that we've uploaded, so check those episodes out. You know, comment on the video, subscribe, do all that good stuff. Please do. It helps us out a lot. We really appreciate it.
And if you're looking for more great videos to watch, you should actually check out our partner channel, Disregarding Henry. He just posted a recent review of Buffalo 66, and that was actually a lot of fun. We helped him out a little bit in making that video, the live action sequences you see in it. So yeah, watch that. Watch his other reviews. Watch Unmade Masterpieces. Lots of great content on both channels, so stay subscribed. Thanks again for watching, everybody. Now, if you'll excuse me, Barnabas is going to help me suppress my gag reflex. I'll see you all next time.
We're bad people.
But it feels so good.
God, it feels good. Your throat feels amazing.
I'm hungry.